Chris Geiger. Welcome to No Movies in Hell.
I'm Lacrosse Scott, and today we are reviewing The Whale by Darren Aronofsky.
Yes. Darren, I love his stuff. I was
Mm.
excited about Mother. I did not like it. It was fine up until the end, and then it just went off the rails a lot. And so I wasn't sure going into The Whale. There's a lot of buzz around Brendan Fraser, which I realized I've been pronouncing his name wrong this whole time.
Oh, well,
Um,
I just learned something new today.
yes, it's Brendan Fraser, like
Fraser.
Razor, not like Frasier, the TV show. A lot of buzz about his performance and his big comeback. And so I was looking forward to seeing it. The trailer looked really good. I'm watching the trailer and I'm tearing up. So it looked really good. So going in, the girl from Stranger Things was in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's great. I don't think I've seen her in anything besides Stranger Things, though.
Oh, we were watching The Americans. She has a small role in, like a guest, not a guest spot, but like she's in one small part, maybe like a couple years ago.
I'm interested to see The Americans. I've heard really good things about it. But also, I'm reading this book about the Stasi because we just were in Berlin. So after I finish this book, I want to watch The Americans.
It's all on Hulu.
Yes. So what did you think going into The Whale?
I think the same. So the last Darren Aronofsky movie I've seen, is probably Black Swan. So this I've skipped a number of films. I did not see Mother. I did not see The Wrestler. And even before that, I think it was like The Fountain with Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
I knew that there would be some element of like, I guess my expectation was like there's some element of surrealism. Roughly knew about the plot. Brendan Fraser's comeback. Hong Chau's in it, and I've been a fan of her since I've seen Downsizing. And then she was in Watchmen on HBO, which I thought was fantastic, and she was in The Menu, so it's like great. Sadie Sink's gonna be in it, fantastic. I guess my concerns were even going in of like what type of story was this going to tell, because it seemed like a lot was going into the physical appearance of the main character. That was kind of like my hesitation of like, where is the story going to go, what are they going to do? And it's drama, and I'm not one to rush out to see a film that will make me cry or make me feel very emotional, almost like this is my homework. Like, oh, I have to see this movie. But it also got a standing ovation, a umpteen minute standing ovation, which I know is not a very good metric for if a movie is great or not. I have thoughts on that. I was looking forward to it, a little hesitant.
There are certain dramas that going in like are going to be tough. So you have to be in the right frame. You have to like mentally prep yourself. Like, this is going to be sad. I'm maybe going to see it in the morning so that the rest of my day I can go out into the sunlight.
Yes.
Like I do that
can
with
enjoy the
horror
rest of my day.
movies. Yeah.
Right. You're doing the exact strategy that I have for movies.
And it's light for several, more hours that day, and there are people around, and yes.
I don't have to ruminate on it that much because I have my whole day ahead of me.
Yes. I also knew that it was a play. I had read that somewhere along the line. So I was interested from that perspective too, because it's always interesting when you turn a play into a movie. We've seen that before, and it usually works. Maybe it's a one-man play, or like, it's primarily one person, but set in the same place the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I like plays. Bringing a play into a motion picture is always interesting to see different versions of it. I like to watch different versions of different things. So Mean Girls the movie, Mean Girls the musical, Heather's the movie, Heather's the musical. Like, I'll go see multiple incarnations of something in different forms just so I can compare and contrast. Heather's the musical, not as dark.
Yeah, they're singing.
Right.
Did they sing about croquet?
I don't remember. I don't think they do. Overall, I thought the performances were great. I wasn't super excited about the story necessarily.
Mhm.
I think that's it. I don't know that I would recommend it to a ton of people because it's such a tough subject and because the story is interesting but not anything super surprising.
Mhm.
So it is a little bit predictable.
I completely agree. One, I did not know that this was a play until maybe about 20 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, well, it just seemed like it's just in one location.
Mm.
And nothing, and the camera angles were really great in capturing kind of that the environment. And some of the dialogue was very theatrical. Probably get more into that in a bit. There wasn't anything that stood out. In fact, I think it was very common. A very underdog story that I'm pretty sure happens to a lot of people, not the storyline, but having this a character like this and what he goes through is more common than not. And I think that was my frustration. Hollywood or film takes these characters, makes kind of like an exceptionalism or like, the downtrodden person, their hero story of like kind of redemption, and then accolades come like, oh, this is so great and so touching and so moving, and I'm like, there are people like down the street that are like that, or and you don't get the opportunity to talk to people like that, or to there's a lot of assumptions made of folks that are like this, homebound in serious, like lots of things happening. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend the film to many. It takes a lot to watch this film. Overall, I thought it was good. I thought it was good. My scores reflected kind of how I felt.
The performances are what saved this movie. It's taking something that maybe is the experience of a lot of people to varying degrees and brings it forward in a sort of not unpredictable way. But I did think, like, we saw the Fablemans and we talked about that in an earlier episode. And one of the things that struck me about the Fablemans, I couldn't really put my finger on when we were talking about it, but everything is so sanitized in the Fablemans. Everyone is very good. The performances are great, but they're excellent actors and they were hired for that specific like reason. And everyone does exactly what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
And in the Fablemans, like Judd Hirsch is really kind of the one who seems like he's like feeling it when he's doing it versus like, I am an actor, this is what I do, I cry now, I move to this mark on the floor, I go over here, I make this just, and I didn't feel at all that way about the performances in The Whale. I felt like they were very sort of engaged in their characters saga. I guess it's not really fair to say that the people in the Fablemans weren't, but it just came across to me as very sterile or sanitized.
Maybe like heavily directed, because it's like, oh, this is somewhat of an autobiography. I just can't get over some of the dialogue in this film. Like, it just seemed like the retort for everything. Oh, why does he feel this way? What's going on? He's dying. How many times was that? Like, the response was like, oh, he's dying. Maybe it was one of those things of like, words have power. The intent was say it, believe it. But the delivery was just so harsh. It was just like, is defeatist. Like, why should I do X, Y, and Z? He's dying. Yeah, teenager being a teenager, like, fine. But like, as a way to like, I don't know, it was like kind of like breaking someone's spirit of just like, oh, this is happening. Why is this happening? Why this? Why that? The response was, he's dying.
Right. The other thing I thought is if his goal is to make money for his daughter, theoretically, if he lives longer, he could make more money. Right. So he never tries to save himself, but his sole purpose is to save money for his daughter. So I don't know. I had a hard time with that. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he literally is like destroying his life. And then it was just like, well, I hope this is going to a good place. I hope she's a good person. And it's like, well, you had 48 hours to figure out like that. And then if not, then, that money, who knows, right? Could it go to the mom? Possibly. It seemed like, in the last third of like, gosh, the last like 20 minutes of the movie, the Samantha Morton's character, I thought she did an excellent job for the 10 minutes she was on screen. Like, I felt like she really brought it together and really gave, like, the interaction just gave a little more depth than even in the very beginning. It was just kind of like, okay, what's going on? His friend nurse coming in, and she within 10-15 minutes just spilled out everything instead of you experiencing that.
I'm always surprised by Samantha Morton. She's so good.
Yes.
I never think of her in a role. I don't know. I never think of her as like, oh, that would be, a great Samantha Morton vehicle.
Yes.
But she's always so good whenever I see her. And I'm always surprised by her because I don't see her a lot in main character roles. She could absolutely do it. I think the first thing I ever saw her in was that Daniel Craig Rice Ilfans movie, which I can't remember the name of right off the top of my head, but it was years ago, and she was in it, and she was so good. I'll put the name of it down in the description when I find it. Yeah, like she surprises me all the time, and this time when I saw her, I was like, why are you surprised by that? Like, stop being surprised by this woman.
She's great, a fantastic actor. Yeah, I think the first time I ever seen her was in Mario Brothers.
Okay, very different, probably.
The range.
All right, let's go to the slides. So I did give acting a 3, and I gave hair and makeup a 3. It was very convincing in the way that his prosthetics were, I guess,
We're done.
on him, or I'm not sure how that works, but I thought it was very convincing. I never once saw any indication that there was a piece of glue, like something was glued down, or
yeah. I think some of it was done through CGI. Like, I really think a lot of the special effects went into his character, and I thought that it was done well. For hair and makeup, I thought it was like very, I guess, of the time, which would have been, I guess, 2016, early 2016, according to what was on television. Yeah, I just thought the acting was strong. It was good. I think that Brendan Fraser and Samantha Morton really carried the role. It was like, I wanted so much more out of the supporting characters. It just felt like very much like a play. Like I was watching a play, and I thought that it would be a little more like fluid in dialogue and having to experience things and feel like I'd mentioned before, instead of having people just turn around and tell you what's happening, or what has happened. More flashback scenes. I think there were like 1 or 2. Overall, thought that it was okay. And I don't know if it's one of those things of, when I'm benchmarking this film versus Everything Everywhere All at Once, and you look at like all of these films that are in contention for, or this has been like an incredible year for film first. Then you think of like the spectrum of when you get something that's so out of left field, you never thought that you would see something like this, versus kind of like the expectation of, you kind of know what this is about. You're gonna see it because you just want to see how this is going to develop. It's with an amazing director. I'm acutely aware of some of the other pieces of work that he's done, but just want to see where this goes and kind of where the buzz is coming from. And I just feel like all these films that have these incredibly long-standing ovations from international awards, like, have seriously failed me. Standing for 15 minutes, it's no indicator of a great film. This is a good film. I think it's going to win awards. I think overall it's really good. I felt like I couldn't recommend it to anyone without them probably getting mad at me. Like, why did you have me see this?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to recommend. It's potentially triggering to people.
Yes, yeah. The
And
way that they talk to him is horrible.
well, and the way he hides, right? Like he doesn't go on camera for his
Hmm.
class. Yeah, it's a tough movie to recommend. For Rater's Choice, I gave it a 2 because I don't think I would recommend it to a lot of people.
Hmm.
Even though the performances I think are definitely worth seeing. It's a tough one, but I like that about it too. In my mind, I run it up against other plays that have been movies like Moon,
Hmm.
or I always want to call it Drive, but I know that's a different movie. The one with Tom Hardy where he's in his car the whole time, Locke.
Okay, I've never seen that one.
Okay, so that's a play that was turned into a movie. I feel like a lot. I feel like the Banshees of Inisherin could have been a play,
Yes, yeah.
and that was so great. We just saw that. So it's hard when you're comparing in like this very tiny genre of things that there's some super good versions of that. So, do you have anything to plug in this episode?
I do not. I think we're coming up on our our probably end of year list, so I think that's it. Like this has been an incredible year in film and television, so I think that's what I have on the horizon. How about yourself? Do you have anything to plug?
This Sunday is an iHeart Korean Movies event. It will be a movie called The Night Owl. I have not heard of it. I just saw it the other day, posted about it on our Instagram account, but it looks like a historical thriller. That's the description that I'm pulling from what I've seen about it so far. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be interesting. I just saw Decibel, which is also an action Korean film. It seemed like it was not going to be great based on the
Mm.
description going in, but it actually turned out to be really a lot better than I thought it would be.
Winding down the year.
Yes. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.